Thanks for that introduction. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time to listen to the White Rock story, and certainly thanks to the people at RIU for making it happen. As was mentioned earlier, it's nice to actually see people face to face over a coffee or a beer rather than on Zoom, sitting in your pyjamas or with a face mask on. So yeah, the story is one of White Rock. We have 3 assets. You will find this presentation on our website and it's lodged with the ASX, so I will go relatively quickly through it. I have a booth, number 2, so through the foyer, through the doors, and I'm on the right if you want to come and have a chat afterwards. And if you're suffering from insomnia, you can read the disclaimer at your pleasure. So look, that's a busy slide. Because it's lodged, it gives the reader reading it rather than presenting an idea of what's to come. But essentially, I will touch on the Woods Point Gold Project, our Red Mountain project in Alaska, and very briefly, the asset that White Rock was listed with, Mount Carrington here in New South Wales. So the 3 projects, as I've mentioned, so Woods Point has a great historical production history, and I'll touch on that. It's about 150 kilometres east of Melbourne. White Rock's based out of Ballarat, so it's actually nice to have a project in the same state. And I think that's an important consideration for an investor in this COVID world. Now, clearly borders have been softened, although who knows what happens in the future. And so having a project that you can put boots on the ground and see and manage closer to home is important. But then having said that, we have an asset in Alaska. And obviously we weren't able to get there. We could have got there, but we wouldn't have been able to get back home thanks to Victorian rules. But we have a great team in Alaska out of Fairbanks that have been our project managers for 4 years. And surprisingly, many people probably don't realise, it's only a 6-hour time difference. So it's a very, very favourable time zone to be talking and chatting with the crews there. And then the asset that we listed on Mount Carrington is between Casino and Tenterfield in northern New South Wales. So a little bit about what we are at a high level. So, we have the 3 projects that I mentioned. Victoria with a past producing gold mine processing plant, 2 mining leases and a large tenement package of what many people will tell you is underexplored, and you can come and have a chat to me afterwards. I'm a mining engineer, so I like to talk about facts and not get too excited, but certainly has been underexplored with great potential. The USA, so the Alaskan asset, when we acquired it, was 15 square Ks. With the success that we've had with exploration, it's now out to over 860 square Ks, and New South Wales, our Mount Carrington asset. So I think that jurisdiction diversification is important for the investor to consider. They speak English. In Alaska, you can call it English, but certainly I think it's important, Tier 1 jurisdictions follow the rule of law. But then also in commodities, whether it's battery metals, lithium, what have you. And we've got great exposure across gold. This is not financial advice, but as a mining engineer, I'm very happy to be dealing with gold. I think it's shown its worth over time. Silver, not many people understand the silver market, certainly in Australia. We're one of the few that have a genuine exposure to large JORC silver deposits. And also zinc. Now, as you heard before, if I had my choice, I'd probably like copper, but if I can't have copper, I don't mind having zinc as a base metal. So we've got JORC resources, so independently determined and verified. So significant amounts of zinc, as I've mentioned, gold and silver. On a combined basis, 800,000 ounces of gold, 84 million ounces of silver, to give you some idea, is over 1 million ounces of gold equivalent. Given the gold-silver ratio, and as I mentioned, significant amounts of zinc and lead. I'm not the last managing director that will ever stand in front of you and say that we're undervalued, and I think therein lies the opportunity. So here are 4 independent valuations where White Rock has had no say at all in the value determination of its assets. And you can see some numbers. So there are 4 data points. Valmin is probably the most useful. It's an independent, internationally recognised code like JORC. So you can see the values ascribed to Red Mountain variously, Mount Carrington and Woods Point. The bottom line averages, multiples of our market cap. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that we'll ever get true full value, But I say, even if they're half right, I think therein lies an opportunity. And I guess my job as the MD of the company is to try and extract some of that inherent asset value that others see, extract that into the share price and the market capitalisation of White Rock. So capital structure, I won't spend too much time other than shareholders. I think it's important for a potential investor to see who else has put their money into a company. Have they done their due diligence? What sort of bona fides do they have? Our largest shareholder is Crescat Capital. It's a precious metals fund out of Denver in the US. I think that's an important point. We've got a couple of high net worths based here in Sydney, but we've also got within those nominees a private equity group out of New York. We've got the Zijin Sprott joint venture out of Hong Kong, and we've got 2 Swiss funds in there as well. So that's just an example, and we've got about 5,000 shareholders. Hopefully some of them are here today, and I'm more than happy to have a chat afterwards. So Woods Point, I will go fairly quickly. So Victoria, so I'm a proud Melburnian, have worked all around the world. So I ran the Ballarat gold mine in 2010, where gold was on the nose in Victoria and people were pretty much getting out of Victoria. Bendigo wasn't a good story, Ballarat wasn't a good story back then. But I've always, I guess, looked as a mining engineer at the underlying asset fundamentals rather than the corporate overlay that often trips up companies. Victoria does have a proud history. I remember speaking at Diggers and Dealers telling West Australians that actually gold does come from other places other than just Western Australia. And most people now in this Renaissance Mark II will have heard of Fosterville. All I can say is lucky bastards. And hopefully we won't be too far behind in terms of grade that we'll mine. So it is going through a second renaissance. Look, Victoria is tough to permit, just as New South Wales, just are many other jurisdictions. But again, rule of law, speak English, follow due process. And there are some good other mines in Victoria, not just Fosterville. So where we are, so it's a 2-pronged approach with the Woods Point Gold Project. We acquired it by way of a merger only in August last year. We had 2 drills going since October, and we've now identified at least 3 areas above 9 level underground, and I'll touch on that, where we're ready now to do that pre-production development, verify the diamond drilling. It is narrow vein, high grade underground nuggety quartz reefs, and I've had experience in that, and the drill bit doesn't lie, but development into those reefs is critical to confirm the geological modelling of these fairly tricky reef structures. But also the regional exploration potential, 660 square k's. It's yielded over 1.5 million ounces. We've got at least 10 historical mines, very little drilling. So there's as much excitement in the White Rock team at the regional exploration as there is underground. So what is it? So the Morningstar gold mine, last by GMA, so Gold Mines of Australia, which was the forerunner to Western Mining for those that know of Western Mining, now part of BHP. So this gave birth to Western Mining. Not many mines have yielded that sort of ounces at that sort of grade. The shaft goes down 800 metres. It's flooded below 10 level, so we've been developing and drilling above 9 level, but we're also drilling below 9 level at a thing called the gap zone. Infrastructure in place, if you remember the pictures, it's got a shaft winder, we've got 25 people on site, we've got a fully permitted, ready to go gold processing plant. So the 4 areas that we've got, in the upper areas we've got what we call Dickinson, in the middle we've got an area called Kenny's McNally's, and below 9 level, and very excitingly, we've got this gap zone, which we only put out an announcement on Friday. And that's the drilling. So in the upper levels of Dickinson we drill from surface, and for Kenny's McNally's and the gap zone we drill from underground. So even within the Dickinson area we've got multiple reefs, and the trick with Morningstar will be to have multiple working areas over multiple levels. You can read these intersections at your leisure, they're all on the ASX. You can see they're fairly narrow, 1 to 2 metres, but significant grades, 1, 2, 3 ounces a tonne. And that's the key asset, and the key thing that we need to be mindful of is not to dilute the grade. So it'll be low tonnage, but it'll be high value tonnage where the dilution is kept to a minimum. It's narrow vein mining, so it's air leg, and that's important. We're not going to go bulk tonnage. Bulk tonnage gets you volume through the mill, but you've diluted the grade, and you spend your money moving tonnes, not moving ounces. So the less tonnes we can move, with more ounces in those tonnes, the far more economic we'll be. So then in the Kenny's area again, we've had significant success in the drilling that we've been doing since October, and you can see some of the grades there as well. So 4 areas that we'll be mining, and then excitingly the gap zone. Above it, 500,000 ounces were mined. Below it, 300,000 ounces were mined. But in the middle, very little drilling, no mining, because they pushed the shaft through that post-World War II. So you can work out if it's a 200 metre vertical by 60 metres wide, by about 600 metres long, you can hide a lot of gold in that. And we're doing that drilling as we speak. And that's the announcement that we put out on Friday. So only our second hole towards the middle of the ore body, which is that picture in the middle. We did do some drilling on the very northern flank, but this is the first decent hole. Hit an unknown reef with visible gold, assays pending. So there's the plant ready to go. We intend to increase the workforce in terms of mining and processing people, and do some of that development, some of that capital, and start producing gold. Regionally, we have a significant land package. You can see some of the historical mines. You can see some of the occurrences of gold over 30 and 60 grams a tonne. Pretty much underexplored, held by small juniors with never the balance sheet or the patience or the time to commit to the decent exploration program opportunities that exist, and that's what we see exciting as well. And you can see that we hold a lot of project tenement holdings with targets that we want to work on. So we're working up a program. Again, you can see some of the land holdings and some of the occurrences that we've got in our tenement package. And a first priority for us is this Wallaby target. It was mined down to the water level by the old timers and stopped. Didn't have a lot of tonnage, not particularly high grade by Woods Point standard, about 10 grams a tonne. Most people would settle for that. But the analogies to the Morningstar dike system is significant, and that's what our eyes are on. Quickly to Alaska, the geologists were very imaginative. It is called Red Mountain, and that's what you can see. Significant land package, 860 square kilometres. Alaska is ranked in the top 5 of the world for jurisdictions, and we have a significant JORC resource, over 20 million tonnes at 8% zinc equivalent, but a high grade, and you can see some of the grades there. You know, it's a couple of grams a tonne gold equivalent, zinc, copper, in fact, lead, all economically recoverable. Big land package, we've got both VMS potential, so zinc, silver, gold, lead, but also in the west to the left there, we've got a very large gold system called Last Chance, crying out for drilling. We've in fact got more drill targets than we've got time to drill at this point in time. So in summary, White Rock, I've mentioned to you the Woods Point Gold Project, happy to talk to you further about that. Red Mountain, it's got this great geological benefit of having both VMS polymetallic but also gold in its own right. I haven't really touched on Mount Carrington, that's being JV'd and we're free carried. Happy to talk to the listener about that afterwards. Jurisdiction diversification I've mentioned I think is important for the investor to consider. You don't want to wake up in the morning and find that some event outside of your control has taken a project off you. And again, I'm not the last one to say that, you know, we do have a broad and deep board and management team experience. So look, with that, thanks very much for your time and listening. As I said, happy to have a chat to you afterwards at my booth. Thanks.